All right. Good morning. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for Kahuna Presents. We have another episode today with Brett Goldberg, co-founder, co-CEO of ticket marketplace TickPick. Brett, tell me about what makes TickPick different.
Well, first, thanks for having me. So TickPick is a ticket marketplace similar to StubHub, but better is the way I like to say it. And the typical question I get after that is why? And the first and foremost for the consumer, it's cheaper tickets. So we're making less money on a sale, which makes it easy to sell the same tickets for lower dollar amount. The next piece is using algorithms to help people figure out what's a good deal on tickets. So looking at seat location and price and making a recommendation on which tickets they should buy. And then it's ultimately about the user experience, the journey, and customer service, and really trying to differentiate ourselves and making it the easiest possible experience for a customer that's showing all in pricing, so you don't need to worry and guess about what the fees are going to be at the end, up front. One click through the checkout. Apps are really fine-tuned, been working on those since 2013, and then obviously great partners like Kahuna.
Thank you. Yeah, I love ticket marketplaces because they were one of the first e-commerce experiences that I ever had on the web. And I remember going back to StubHub. I had friends who worked at StubHub before the acquisition, got to know that space really well. And I love the idea that disruptors are now disrupting the disruptors. So that's really fun. What was your inspiration for founding TickPick?
The first piece was just when I realized that the secondary ticket industry had 20 to 25% fees. And I thought it was an industry that was relatively efficient in that tickets sold out to an event, you wanted to go to it, you could buy tickets, which was great. But when I think about a financial marketplace, which is really efficient, there you're talking about basis points, and here you're talking about percentages. And so it became clear to us that we could enter the market, be a profitable business on a 12, 13% margin, which is almost half of what our competitors are doing.
Oh, outstanding. So who are your sellers?
For the most part, it's large ticket brokers. The industry has gone significantly more complex for the better for the most part, in that the secondary industry has been accepted and it's now a channel partner. So if you're a baseball team and you're trying to move tickets, you may work directly with secondary markets as a channel to get to consumers, because they're no longer just going to Ticketmaster to shop for tickets. They're going to a StubHub or to a TickPick, and that's all they're checking, and the prices they see is what's available to them. And so there are teams in one way or another that may be working with designated ticket brokers. They may do it themselves, but they're now starting to actually get their inventory onto secondary industry in some way or fashion, in an official capacity in some way. For some teams, not all, but a lot of teams now.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that's interesting for me to think about is tickets are not fungible, right? I mean, if I'm selling shoes online, one pair of 9.5 Nikes is as good as another pair of 9.5 Nikes of the same style. But a ticket has time, date, time, and location specificity. Do your sellers offer the same tickets on multiple marketplaces, or do they lock into blocks into specific markets?
For the most part, they're going to distribute their inventory across the board. So there's software now that's kind of behind the scenes that allows a ticket broker to distribute their tickets onto StubHub, TickPick, and probably 8 other marketplaces. And so in real time through API, if someone buys the tickets on TickPick, that they're going to come off the other marketplaces and vice versa.
Oh, nice. Neat. Do you have, aside from individuals, do you have different kinds of buyers?
You have corporate buyers. There's definitely unique. We have partnerships with certain airlines where you could buy tickets through their rewards platform and use miles to buy those tickets. It's still ultimately a consumer, but it's a different funnel and different path for that acquisition.
What's the average number of events a customer will attend in a year?
For what we see is going to be different, just because you talk about kind of channel partners. There's reasons where someone should go to Ticketmaster directly. And that's if you want to go see a certain Broadway show, maybe it's an off-Broadway show, maybe there is no resale market around that, and you should buy them from the box office. In general, we're looking at around two events a year.
Oh, neat. How many tickets does your average seller list at one time?
Ooh. It's a good question. It moves so much from a season to season. Because right now, if you're a ticket broker that's got baseball tickets, you probably really don't even have any ticket. That's a tough one because the schedule has already been announced, so it's a tough one. But there's a lot of seasonality to that. On the low end, you're going to look to see some sellers that have just 100 tickets. To the high end, they could have millions of tickets.
We had originally scheduled this call for a few weeks ago, and it didn't occur to me until you called me and said, it's World Series right now, and I didn't even think about that. So one, I apologize for that because I should have thought about it. But that's like those major events are like your Christmas shopping season. How do you manage that scaling up and down so dramatically based on massive events like the Super Bowl or World Series or World Cup?
Yeah, there's few events like it. World Series happens to be one of those events now that's become, if I asked you 10 years ago, what did you think World Series ticket prices were? And I told you $500, you probably would have been blown away. And now, consistently for the last 5 years, that's kind of the price point you're talking about to get in the door.
Mm.
I was also pretty surprised seeing that. Super Bowl, I don't think it's as surprising. But, there you're talking a $3,000 get-in price, and that's held pretty firm as well. And so from a marketing perspective, at these types of big events, we start creating lots of audiences, breaking down our users, retargeting, getting aggressive, just making sure we're staying in front of them from an email, from a retargeting to a push. They're big campaigns and big efforts around those events.
Yeah, well, when it comes to pricing, I'm never surprised anymore. I live in the Bay Area, and if you'd asked me 10 years ago what the cost of housing would be, I would have laughed at you. So there's a lot of that going around. In your marketplace, do buyers become sellers and vice versa? Do you see that movement between the same user?
It's interesting you ask, because there are a handful of ticket brokers that are selling tickets for the most part, but they're also buyers of tickets as well. And so for brokers, we're starting to we've got kind of a beta product that allows them to buy up inventory, because they, whether it's the Super Bowl or the World Series, they may want to make a position in a certain event. So they are buyers in those cases. And then I think your typical consumer also, I've done it plenty of times. I buy tickets to a concert I think I'm going to go to, and then my babysitter cancels on me the week before or whatever it is. So for the consumer and live events. And I think that's what's so powerful and great about the secondary market is there's always going to be a place for it. Unlike an airline industry where you're just stuck with a $200, cancellation fee, and maybe if you spend $300 on the ticket, you can get a $100 credit for future purchase. Here, you spend $200 for a ticket, a week in advance, you probably will recoup most of your money, and depending some, maybe all of it.
Fun. It's, the more you talk about it, the more it does resemble a financial market in a sense, right? I could envision somebody basically shorting an event based on not knowing who's going to be in it yet.
Mm-hmm. Right.
What are the signals that you're looking for that indicates the journey a user is on, whether it be a buyer or a seller?
It's interesting when I no longer kind of run our AdWords more than I used to. I segmented our audiences, and I did in like 6 to 8 different segments. And the Google team said, that's not good practice. You want to really break it down into just 4, so it's easy. But I said, yeah, but if someone's on the checkout for more than a minute and doesn't convert, that's pretty telling to me. They're pretty serious versus someone who goes to checkout to see what the price is and goes right back. And so I had done some things like that. I think luckily for us with the Kahuna partner, you don't need to do too many different custom segmentations. You're able to then kind of cut the data and the users after the fact. So you don't need to know exactly what you're looking for beforehand. When Super Bowl's coming up, we say, hey, if anyone's been to a Super Bowl page, let's bucket that person into an audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the abandoned cards, segmenting based on cart abandonment and then launching campaigns specific to that state is a really useful way to drive down your cart abandonment and churn. We see that across the board. That's an interesting use case. Okay, so So that's a good segue, actually, messaging. How else are you using messaging in your app around specific campaigns or states?
So I don't run the Kahuna campaigns anymore either, but they've gotten, I want to say more sophisticated, but I guess they have gotten more sophisticated. Depending on trigger campaigns, so onboarding customers to they haven't done anything for a couple of weeks, and then messaging and providing coupons, etc. So there are a lot of multifaceted campaigns that you try to onboard the customer, they don't actually transact, then you're trying to get them back in. I remember there was times when I was involved, I saw if someone downloaded the app, didn't sign up, and in like 2 days didn't make any searches, didn't do anything, the likelihood of that person becoming, I forgot the terms you guys used, but unengaged was astronomical. And so we said, like, you got to get aggressive with them to try to get them back in. So using aggressive promo codes or whatever it is that may be interesting to them. Maybe they just didn't find the events they were looking for, which really shouldn't be the case. But I guess it's a hard answer generally. There's just so many different things you can do.
But it all gets back to this point that there are specific actions that a new user or a returning user needs to take as part of that journey. And it's incumbent upon you as the service provider to get them through that. And sometimes you got to pull them and push them to get them through those steps. But we know the data science is conclusive on that when you have that locked in and you're really taking a mechanized approach to it, you have a more successful onboarding journey. And I experience this as an end user all the time. I install a new app, but I don't set up the account. Well, the better vendors are on me about that. They're messaging me constantly to reinforce that, why I should do that. And, it's going back to the old days of SaaS. If somebody isn't using your app in the first 5 minutes, they're not going to use it in the first 5 days or first 5 months either. So get them on it, get them going.
Yeah, it's a fine balance as well.
Yeah, because if you message them too much, and we actually just did marketplace research on this, the state and future of marketplaces, and one of the, I think 33 or 36% of people abandon a marketplace because of excessive messaging. So yeah, the right channel, the right message, right time is really critical.
Interesting. Yeah.
Okay, so last question. What's your best ticketing story ever?
It's funny. You gave me a heads up on this question, and I hadn't thought it through enough, but I do have a good one. So when Chris and I started the company in 2012, we started in 2011, but really launched 2012. We were the only two at the company, so we did all the support. We did everything, and there was a person who used a stolen credit card to buy tickets to go see the Jay-Z first night at Barclays Center. And they were probably $1,000 tickets. We caught the person, so we knew we kept the tickets ourselves, right? So the fraudster used a stolen credit card. We don't deliver the tickets. We try to resell them, and we couldn't really resell them. And it got to the point where it's like we knew we could if it was a big enough loss. And we said, you know what? Never again would we spend this amount of money on tickets anyway. So let's just go. And it was Jay-Z's opening night at Barclays Center. We were in the second row, right off the stage. His manager was right in front of us, and it just was an incredible night. So that's probably one of my better ones.
Awesome. Brett Goldberg, thank you. It was such a pleasure to talk with you. TickPick.com, definitely a ticket marketplace of choice. So thank you again for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.